Picture the dream. You sign a multi-million-dollar check, walk across a private asphalt tarmac at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, and step straight onto a carpeted air stair. Zero TSA lines, zero pat-downs, zero delayed connections at O'Hare, and absolutely zero strangers elbowing your ribs for middle seat armrest dominance. You sink into a hand-stitched Connolly leather captain's chair, sip chilled Dom Perignon at 45,000 feet, and whisper to yourself, "I have finally made it. I own a piece of the sky." It is the ultimate status symbol of modern capitalism. It is the physical manifestation of wealth so vast that commercial aviation schedules no longer apply to you. But here is the dirty, multi-million-dollar secret that nobody in the slick sales brochures from Gulfstream, Bombardier, or Cessna will ever tell you until after your wire transfer clears. That shiny sticker price on the window? It is not the cost of the airplane. It is merely the admission ticket to a financial meat grinder that will chew through your liquidity every single day the jet sits on the tarmac doing absolutely nothing. Most people assume that buying a private jet is like buying a high-end mansion in Bel Air, an asset where the big hurdle is simply coming up with a purchase price. They could not be more wrong. A mansion sits on real estate that generally appreciates over time. A private jet is a hyper-complex, rapidly depreciating mechanical furnace that consumes stacks of $100 bills. Whether it is screaming through the stratosphere at Mach 0.85 or quietly rusting inside a hangar in Van Nuys, California, today we are opening the sealed flight bags of private aviation. From six-figure hangar rentals and million-dollar checks to IRS loopholes, geopolitical fuel spikes, and the infamous Warren Buffett lesson that nearly bankrupted a division of Berkshire Hathaway, we are breaking down the brutal, unforgiving economics of owning a private jet. Put on your seatbelts, leave your TSA anxiety at the gate, and let's run the numbers. Before you even touch a flight yoke, you have to realize that the term private jet does not describe a single purchase. It describes a steep, six-step financial ladder where the bottom rung and the top rung are separated by an unbelievable gap of more than $80 million. At the very bottom sit the very light jets, or VLJ's aircraft like the Cirrus Vision Jet or the Embraer Finan 100. These run anywhere from $3 million to $7 million. They carry 4 to 6 passengers, feel slightly roomier than an SUV with wings, and are designed for short regional hops of an hour or two, say, from Miami to Atlanta. Step up one rung and you reach light jets like the Citation CJ4, running $8 million to $16 million. Next are mid-sized jets, priced between $16 million and $25 million. Mid-size is the crucial threshold where cabin height finally allows a full-grown adult to stand straight up without slouching, a feature that sounds trivial until you have spent 4 agonizing hours hunched over in a smaller cabin. Above that are super mid-sized jets at $26 million to $38 million, engineered for coast-to-coast flights from New York to Los Angeles without refueling stops. Then come large cabin jets like the Gulfstream Nhi 550, running $40 million to $62 million. And sitting at the summit are ultra-long-range jets behemoths like the Gulfstream G700 or Bombardier Global 7500, priced from $65 million to over $80 million, built across entire oceans from Tokyo to London without touching down once. Beyond even that sit converted Boeing and Airbus VIP airliners that can easily breach $100 million before custom interior upgrades. So, you pick your tier, wire $80 million for a brand new ultra-long-range jet, and take delivery. Congratulations! Now step into trapdoor number 1, the depreciation cliff. The absolute moment a new business jet leaves the factory floor and takes its maiden flight, it suffers an aggressive loss of market value. Industry data shows that first-year depreciation routinely consumes 10% to 15% of the aircraft's original purchase price. On an $80 million Gulfstream, that means between $8 million and $12 million of your net worth evaporates into thin air in the first 12 months alone before a single mechanical part fails, before a single gallon of jet fuel is burned, and before you pay your pilots a single dime. After that initial steep plunge, the depreciation curve flattens out to roughly 5% per year through years 2 to 5. Smaller jets actually depreciate faster in percentage terms than larger ones, simply because there is a higher volume of light jets flooding the resale market, competing for the exact same buyers. A popular light jet can lose fully 1/3 of its value in just its first 5 years of operation. This is why veteran corporate buyers rarely purchase brand new aircraft out of the factory. Instead, they target pre-owned planes that are 6 or 7 years old. These aircraft have already absorbed the most painful section of the depreciation cliff, yet still possess 2 decades of safe, airworthy flying life ahead of them. A 7-year-old mid-sized jet often sells for roughly half of its original sticker price, while offering nearly identical cabin comfort. But whether you buy new or used, the underlying economic reality never changes. A private jet is not a financial investment. It is a rapidly decaying, high-maintenance asset that you happen to be able to sit inside. You do not buy a jet expecting to sell it for a profit. The only question is how fast you lose your money. Now let's calculate what it costs simply to keep your newly acquired aircraft sitting parked inside a hangar, cold and silent, doing 0 hours of flying. Welcome to the immobility tax. First, the hangar rent. You cannot simply park an $80 million precision-engineered aluminum machine in an open-air driveway. Sun exposure, saltwater mist, wind, and hail will destroy its avionics and exterior skin. Renting covered. Climate-controlled hangar space ranges from $1,500 a month at a sleepy regional runway in Ohio to $10,000 a month or more at high-demand private aviation hubs like Teterboro in New Jersey or Van Nuys in Southern California. That alone adds up to $18,000 to well over $120,000 per year just for a roof over your plane's head. Second, insurance. Hull and liability insurance for private aircraft is legally mandatory and financially eye-watering. For a light jet, annual insurance premiums run $10,000 to $25,000. But for a large cabin or ultra-long-range jet valued in the tens of millions, insurance premiums easily reach $200,000 a year and can climb toward $500,000 annually, depending on coverage limits, flight routes, and pilot experience levels. Third, the flight crew. This is the single most underestimated fixed line item in private aviation. A modern business jet requires 2 fully certified, type-rated pilots, and larger intercontinental jets carry a dedicated flight attendant. In today's competitive aviation market, pilot salaries for senior captains on heavy jets range from $200,000 to over $300,000 annually. When you put together a 2-pilot crew, factor in mandatory annual simulator training at facilities like Flight Safety International, medical certifications, travel stipends, and health benefits, you are easily spending $300,000 to $500,000 a year just to have qualified human beings standing by ready to fly your aircraft, even if you do not take a single flight all year. Fourth, management company retainers. Most jet owners do not personally manage FAA regulatory compliance, crew shift scheduling, flight planning, fuel logistics, and maintenance tracking. They hire a professional aircraft management company under Part 91 or Part 135 regulations. That administrative oversight fee adds another $50,000 to $200,000 per year onto your bill. Let's stack these non-negotiable numbers up. Hangar rent, insurance premiums, pilot payroll, and management fees. Combine them, and before your airplane turns an engine key or burns a single drop of fuel, you are staring at a fixed baseline cost of $500,000 to over $1 million, $500,000 every single year. You pay this price purely for the privilege of ownership. If you thought fixed operational costs were painful, wait until you open the maintenance ledger. In aviation, routine maintenance is not a matter of changing the oil every few thousand miles. It is a strictly regulated, military-grade financial drain. On average, annual routine maintenance reserves eat up between 5% and 10% of the aircraft's total market value every year. On a $20 million mid-size jet, that translates to $1 million to $2 million annually just for scheduled upkeep and mandatory inspections. Aviation maintenance is structured into lettered inspection checks A, B, C, and D. A and B checks occur every few hundred flight hours and involve routine systems testing. But C and D checks are deep, invasive structural teardowns. A major D check requires mechanics to strip down the entire interior cabin, remove the engines, X-ray the titanium airframe for hairline fatigue cracks, and reassemble the machine from scratch. A single D check grounds your aircraft for weeks and can easily cost over $500,000 by itself, and that is assuming nothing actually breaks. The price tags on aviation-grade replacement parts sound like satire. A single replacement main landing gear tire for a large jet costs over $2,000 and lasts for only about 100 landings. Retrofitting a modern cab and satellite Wi-Fi system into the cabin runs past $500,000, plus another $100,000 just for the aerodynamic radome antenna housing on top of the fuselage. Reupholstering cabin seats with aviation-certified fire-retardant leather costs $200,000. Replacing the high-traffic cabin carpet costs $40,000 to $90,000. Refinishing the handcrafted exotic wood veneers on the cabin side ledges and galley cabinets, that is a $300,000 to $500,000 job. This brings us directly to trapdoor number 2, the pre-owned discount illusion. An inexperienced buyer finds a pre-owned 10-year-old mid-size jet listed for $8 million, half the price of a new model. It looks like an incredible bargain. But, in aviation, an older aircraft has not avoided maintenance. It has simply accumulated deferred maintenance liability. The closer a used jet gets to its next major engine overhaul or structural D-check, the faster that $8 million discount evaporates. Buyers who skip a meticulous pre-purchase inspection can buy a discounted jet on Monday, only to be handed a $3 million bill for a mandatory Honeywell or Rolls-Royce engine overhaul on Tuesday. Suddenly, that bargain jet costs the exact same as a newer model, except you now own a decade-old airframe that is significantly closer to the graveyard. Now, let's actually push the throttles forward and fly the airplane. Because the moment those turbine wheels leave the tarmac, variable operating costs start ticking like a casino slot machine running in reverse. Every single hour a private jet spends in the air incurs heavy direct operating expenses. Jet. A fuel alone costs roughly $1,100 to $2,700 per flight hour, depending on engine thrust and altitude. A heavy jet burns hundreds of gallons of fuel every 60 minutes. Layer on top of that engine overhaul reserves tied directly to flight hours, landing fees charged by airports, ramp handling fees, de-icing services that can cost $10,000 per spray during winter storms, and luxury in-flight catering. Add it all together, and the true cost to fly a modern business jet lands somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000 per flight hour. But there is a massive macro variable that no glossy sales brochure ever discloses: geopolitical fuel volatility. Jet fuel is not bought at a fixed neighborhood gas station price. It is priced off the global commodities market, the exact same market exposed to international wars, Middle Eastern conflicts, refinery fires on the US Gulf Coast, and shipping blockades in the Strait of Hormuz. When geopolitical tensions flare up, global crude prices spike, and Jet A prices can double within weeks, jumping from $6 a gallon to over $12 a gallon at major FBOs, fixed-base operators. For a jet owner flying 300 hours a year, an unexpected $6 per gallon surge in fuel prices adds hundreds of thousands of dollars in unbudgeted operational expenses overnight. Unlike a commercial airline that can hedge fuel contracts years in advance, or pass fuel surcharges onto thousands of ticket-buying passengers, a private owner absorbs 100% of that commodity shock directly out of their personal bank account. A single geopolitical crisis can instantly destroy the entire financial margin between owning an aircraft and simply renting one. This brings us to the core economic asymmetry of private aviation. Your operational costs are fixed, but your flight usage is variable. You pay for the hangar, the insurance premiums, and the pilot salaries, whether you fly 50 hours a year or 500 hours a year. Let's run the math out loud for a mid-sized jet to see if ownership ever makes rational financial sense. Suppose your fixed annual overhead hangar, crew, insurance, and management totals $700,000 a year before you take off. Scenario A, the optimistic executive. You fly a demanding schedule of 300 flight hours a year, crossing the country multiple times a week. At a variable flying cost of $3,000 per hour, 300 hours costs $900,000 in fuel and maintenance reserves. Add your $700,000 fixed overhead, and your total annual bill is $1,600,000. Divide that total by 300 hours, and your effective all-in cost is roughly $5,333 per flight hour. Compare that to chartering a similar mid-sized jet at market rates of $6,000 to $8,000 per hour, and ownership actually wins. You saved money because you spread those massive fixed overhead costs thin enough over 300 hours. Scenario B, the realistic owner. You buy the exact same jet, but your real-world calendar only requires 100 flight hours a year, which is far more typical for busy founders and private investors. Your fixed overhead remains locked at $700,000. Your variable flying costs drop to $300,000 for those 100 hours. Your total annual bill is $1 million. Now divide $1 million across just 100 flight hours. Your real cost per flight hour shoots up to $10,000. At $10,000 an hour, you are paying nearly double what it would have cost to simply charter the exact same airplane on demand, with zero liability, zero hangar rent, and zero pilot payroll. Aviation industry consensus places the mathematical break-even threshold at roughly 150 to 200 flight hours per year. Fly less than 150 hours, and you are effectively setting $400,000 to $500,000 on fire every single year compared to chartering. Yet, nearly 80% of individual private jet owners fly under 120 hours a year. They are paying a massive, hidden premium purely for the ego of having their tail number parked on the ramp. If the underlying math of private jet ownership is so horribly stacked against individual owners, why do corporate America and ultra-high net worth individuals continue to buy hundreds of business jets every single quarter? The answer is not found in aerodynamics. It is found inside the United States Tax Code. Welcome to IRS, Section 168K, Bonus Depreciation. Under provisions established by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the U.S. federal government created a massive tax incentive for business capital investments. If an entity purchases a qualifying business asset, including a corporate jet, and operates it for at least 50% qualified business flight hours, under FAA Part 91 regulations, the owner is allowed to deduct up to 100% of the aircraft's total purchase price against their taxable income in the very first year it is placed into service. Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Imagine a profitable private equity founder or corporate enterprise sitting on a massive $80 million taxable profit at the end of the fiscal year. Facing a top federal and state marginal income tax rate that can exceed 37%, that business owner is staring down an impending tax liability of roughly $29.6 million payable directly to the IRS. Instead of writing a $29.6 million check to the U.S. Treasury, the business buys an $80 million ultra-long-range jet before December 31st. By applying 100% bonus depreciation under Section 168 CAC, they write off the full $80 million purchase price against their corporate income in year one. That single tax deduction completely wipes out their $29.6 million tax liability for the year. In effect, the U.S. tax code just subsidized nearly $30 million of the jet's purchase price. That $80 million Gulfstream did not actually cost $80 million after accounting for immediate tax savings. The net out-of-pocket acquisition cost dropped to roughly $50.4 million. This tax mechanism explains why jet transactions surge wildly every year between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve. It is not because corporate executives suddenly felt an urge to fly to Aspen for the holidays. It is because corporate CFOs and tax attorneys are racing against the midnight clock on December 31st to convert imminent IRS tax liabilities into winged corporate assets. To fix this unforgiving math, owners attempt three main workarounds. First, they charter out their aircraft when they aren't using it. A management company lists the jet for charter under FAA, Part 135, to generate revenue that offsets fixed hangar and crew costs. But this creates a hidden trade-off. Every charter hour put on the airframe accelerates the flight hour clock toward its next multi-$100,000 check and degrades its ultimate resale value. You are essentially borrowing money from tomorrow's resale value to pay for today's hangar rent. Second, buyers turn to fractional ownership, a model pioneered in 1986 by Richard Santulli, a mathematician and former investment banker who founded NetJets. Instead of buying a whole airplane, you purchase a fractional share, say 1/16 of a jet, entitling you to 50 flight hours a year, while a centralized management company handles pilots, maintenance, and hangar logistics. Third, buyers use jet cards prepaying for 25 or 50 flight hours at guaranteed hourly rates with zero asset risk and zero depreciation exposure. But if you think fractional ownership is an easy financial goldmine, you need to study the story of Warren Buffett and NetJets, one of the most sobering case studies in modern corporate finance. In the mid-1990s, Warren Buffett became a NetJets fractional customer himself. Impressed by the service, his holding company Berkshire Hathaway bought NetJets outright in 1998 for $725 million. If anyone understood capital allocation and cash flow economics, it was Buffett. Yet, for years after the acquisition, NetJets bled massive amounts of cash year after year. In his famous annual shareholder letters, Buffett candidly admitted that NetJets had become his single biggest financial concern across the entire Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate. The company was burning money so severely that without Berkshire's massive balance sheet standing behind it, NetJets would have faced complete financial collapse. Why did the world's greatest value investor get burned by private aviation? Because fractional jet operations carry massive fixed costs, hundreds of aircraft, thousands of pilots, heavy insurance, and constant maintenance schedules riding on top of volatile macro demand. When economic recessions hit, customer flight hours collapsed, but the fixed overhead costs remained completely unchanged. If the unforgiving economics of private jet management nearly crippled a division owned by Warren Buffett, an amateur investor buying a jet for status is walking into a financial minefield without a map. When you peel away the polished leather, the complimentary champagne, and the ego-driven status symbols, a private jet is not really an airplane. It is an extremely aggressive machine built for a single purpose: converting vast amounts of money into non-refundable time. For a Fortune 500 CEO who needs to visit 3 manufacturing plants in 3 different landlocked states in a single day, or for an entrepreneur whose time is valued at $20,000 an hour, owning or chartering a jet is not a luxury. It is a rational productivity multiplier. But for anyone buying a business jet to impress their peers on Instagram, the math will eventually catch up with you. The fixed hangar fees will arrive every month. The pilot payroll will draft every 2 weeks. The checks will ground your plane, and the depreciation curve will quietly shave millions off your balance sheet. Before you sign a purchase agreement, look past the sticker price. Run the flight hours, audit the maintenance reserves, calculate the tax write-offs, and ask yourself the only question that truly matters. Is your time genuinely worth more per hour than the furnace beneath your feet? Thank you for watching the World Money Desk. If you found this financial deep dive valuable, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you in the next flight path.